Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Welcome back to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with me, Karl Fitzpatrick. Well, Billy Dixon is a professional speaker who specialises in personal development, team dynamics and personal image. His principles are centred around confidence, resilience and building trust. Billy joins us this morning to discuss his work with businesses both here in Ireland and in the UK. But firstly, Billy, tell us about your own journey from college lecturer to image consultant.
I spent 22 years lecturing, and I think, like a lot of people in education, you have a shelf life, and it was time to get out. And I was looking for something to do that would make me stand out from the crowd and was totally unique. And I discovered roughly 26 years ago that there wasn't one man, not one male, doing image consultancy in all of the UK or Ireland. And immediately I thought, well, I like fashion, that'll do me. And so I went and I trained in London with a woman called Mary Spillane, who was Ronald Reagan's campaign manager. So I trained with her and then came back to Ireland and told everybody, hey, here is this guy, he's an image consultant.
And what does the work of an image consultant entail?
Well, in the early days, it was simply giving advice, fashion advice. So I would be looking at what styles would suit a person best, what colours would suit them best. If it was a female, I'd be given advice and guidance on her grooming and her makeup. And for males, I'd be given advice on dressing appropriately for the correct conditions in the corporate world. So that's what an image consultant in those days did. And then I developed it, started bringing in the psychology and everything in at a later stage.
And typically, how would you describe your client base? And perhaps you can tell us about some of the high-profile organisations which you've already worked with.
Well, in the early days, because there was I was this man doing this, I was very, very lucky in that I was given a talk, believe it or not, to the Women's Institute. And unknown to me in the audience, there was a high-profile individual there from the BBC, and what they did, they told their bosses about me, and they brought me into the BBC to work with the presenters, first of all, on a regional level, and then on a national level. And then once that got out, then various political parties, locally first of all, brought me in to do the same thing, and then I was brought to the Dáil, and one of the parties at the stage down there in the Republic, they brought me in, and then finally I ended up working with the Labour Party over in England during the Tony Blair era. So that was the start of it. And then from that, various corporations ranging from the pharmaceutical industry right through to law firms, and just generally the public at large would have used my services at that stage.
And I know that some universities are now using your principles on personal projection in their MBA courses. What is personal projection, and what is the key to executing this effectively?
Well, personal projection is how you come across. And the way I look, my background was I was a lecturer in marketing psychology. And so whenever I look at people, I look upon them just like a product. And whenever you're branding a product, you decide on what personality you're going to give this product. Now, the people already have the personality. So therefore, what you have to do is package that product and that personality appropriately so that they're shown at their best. And there are three elements to it. It's like the marketing mix for people, if you like. The first one is you have to project confidence. Because if you project that confidence, you instill confidence in other people. And the second thing is you must build, and this is one of the key elements, you must build trusting relationships. And that's a big element here. And it's something that needs to be looked at further in the corporate world, because relationships seem to be falling by the way with social media and the way business is being done at the moment. So that's two things. And the third element is the personal brand. It is how that person packages themselves appropriately for the job and the conditions that they're working in.
And do we as business people spend enough time on personal branding, in your opinion?
Some do, some don't. There's some very, very good examples in Ireland of how they project themselves exceptionally well. For example, I work with one large company in Ireland, and they are in the aviation business, and they are exceptionally good. Their chief executive is a man I have utter respect for, and he has really got his finger on the pulse of that. And it's done according to the markets that they're working in. And that's the key, is making sure that your brand is appropriate for the market that you're in. It's like one of the things that frustrates me at the minute is a lot of the car sales business people, they still insist on wearing suits. And the suit brigade are the people who got us in the mess in the first place. These are the people who... and as a result, we, the public in general, just don't trust people we see in suits. So whenever you go into a car showroom, for example, you say, oh, well, this person's going to shaft me. Whereas if they were to dress differently, now I don't mean that they have to dress sloppily or have to dress casually, but it's that smart casual look which would be a much better approach psychologically, in my opinion, than the suits.
So are you saying that for any business that's consumer facing, they should drop the suits, and for any business that's business to business facing, should keep them?
Some businesses, for example, accountancy, still has to appear very, very safe. Now, that doesn't mean they have to wear suits. It just means that whenever they're coming or whenever they're meeting clients, if they're using colours like blue, which says safety. I mean, if you take blue is one of those strange colours that it projects safety. It says cool, calculated. So you can use colour to give a psychological impact to the people that you're working with. Whereas if you went in there in red, then you're saying something completely different. So it depends on the type of business. Some businesses still need the suits, but I would suggest that an awful lot of businesses need to get rid of them. And if you look at the technology businesses, which we have lots of in Ireland, both north and south, they don't need to go that route. But they're going the opposite way, and they're giving out the wrong signals because the casual clothes that they're wearing are not giving out the right messages.
And for those that feel that they need to continue wearing suits, what are your thoughts on wearing a tie?
There's nothing as frustrating as to see the guy who's wearing the suit and he's just pulled off the tie. It never looks right. It just doesn't look right. If you're going to do that, you have to wear a casual shirt with the suit. But to just pull off a tie is giving out the wrong messages completely. It's that incomplete look that just doesn't work.
And what about shoes? Would you match the shoes with the colour of the suit? And if so, how would you go about it?
Shoes are a big thing. Shoes are massive. I remember doing a documentary on the body language of love, funny enough. And the third thing, apparently, that women look at in a man are his shoes. And in business, shoes, clean shoes and the right shoes are absolutely critical. I know, for example, the like of the German car manufacturers and the sales rooms that sell their cars, they are starting to put a complete ban on tan shoes, thankfully, because they are dreadful things. And it used to be, for example, there was this old saying, no brown in town. And I suppose to some extent that still applies, but not on the smart casual side. Black shoes, for example, would be classified as the business shoe. Now, I would like to get away from that because black shoes never, ever really look good with a navy suit. So what I have substituted there would be, I would suggest a Knox blood colour, which is a lovely rich colour. It goes with every colour of suit. It goes in every occasion. It always looks rich. It always looks the part, no matter what type of business you're in.
And for the ladies, what type of business attire would you recommend for them?
One of the things I always say to women in business is please, please, please get away from the dark suits. You're in the fortunate position that you do not have to wear black or you do not have to wear navy. So women are in the fortunate position they can make a real statement. And if you look at the world's most successful women, the vast majority of them in business will wear bright suits. Why? Because it gets them noticed. It makes them stand out from the crowd.
And of course, Billy, you are also a renowned professional speaker. But what are the key themes that you typically cover during your speaking engagements? The
most recent one, and the one I get asked most about, is the whole area of resilience. Resilience, I mean, if you look at the research that come out of Harvard University, they have said that resilience is more important than education, training or experience. And I would agree 100% with that. You could have all the qualifications in the world, you have all the technical knowledge and technology knowledge behind you, but unless you have the resilience, you're never going anywhere. And that also ties into another area which we really struggle with here in Ireland, and that's mental health. For some reason, and I don't know why, and I don't think anybody knows, Ireland, both north and south, has the worst mental health record in Western Europe. And I just find that depressing, because it's something we can do something about.
And Billy, on the topic of resilience, how would you define it?
It is the ability to take the knocks and come back again. And that's it in layman's terms, because every single person in this world is going to suffer setbacks. How we handle that setback will determine our path in life. And unfortunately, an awful lot of people, what they do when they get a setback, they just lie down and quit. And if you look at the most successful sports teams, they're the ones who will keep going until the last whistle is blown. It's that ability to take the knocks, get up again and go, take the knock, get up again and go. That is the measure of a team, it's the measure of an individual. It's that ability to always come back.
Now, evidently, resilience is a necessary quality to succeed in the corporate world. But if a business owner is not naturally resilient, how can they develop it?
Well, experience will develop it, but there are different personality types. I think this argument, is it nature or nurture? And resilience, in part, I think, is genetic. But that's roughly about 50%. There's an argument that there's 50% will be taught. Now, the way I teach resilience, I take away all the nonsense, because people say, you have to change your thinking. But what you can't change your thinking in times whenever things are against you or whenever you're under pressure. But what you can do is take control. And if you can't take control of your thinking, but what you can do is, then what you have to do is take control of your actions and your behavior. Because if you can change your behavior, then your attitude or your thinking will follow. So it's changing behaviors will help change attitudes.
And of course, all problems are relative to the individual. But if somebody feels that there's a serious problem that has come to their door, what steps should they take to deal with it in a resilient manner?
Well, again, it depends on the personality that we're dealing with. There are some people who can make that decision straight away and will deal with it straight away. I mean, in martial arts terms, if you ever listen to martial arts or if you listen to a boxer, whenever something kicks off, it's that delay, that couple of seconds delay that gets the person injured or killed because they freeze. And it's exactly the same in business. Some people, when they're under pressure, will freeze, and it's that period of time that they freeze that will do the damage or they'll lose. So it's how do you make that decision faster? Now, the way I teach people to do this is a 3-step process. Psychologically, this works. I'll stake my reputation on it. When a person is faced with a problem or an issue, which is really, really getting to them, they take a pen and paper and they write down on the page. There's 3 steps. They write down, the first step is to write down what the problem is. That's called admission. Now, the second part is crucial. You write down exactly how it makes you feel. Now, the beauty of this here, whenever you write down something about how you feel, you don't lie. So what you write down is the truth. So therefore, you get rid of all the garbage that's irrelevant. So you will only write down what is relevant. And once you have that done, then that allows you to have something to work on and to think about or even discuss with somebody else. And the third element, which is again key, is you must write down what you have learned from this. And it's that third step, because people say we learn from our mistakes. We actually don't. The majority of us don't. We keep continuing to make the same mistake. And that's why that third step is so important, because you write down what you've learned, and then that will help you in the future.
Now, maybe one of the mistakes that people make when they are dealing with a problem is they're emotionally charged and they don't stand back from it to approach it from a logical perspective. How much of an issue is that, in your opinion?
Oh, it's massive. It is massive because if you look, the way humans are built, we are built to be stressed for a short period of time and then relax, and then short period of time. It goes right back to the hunter-gatherer, and the hunter-gatherer would have been out there, they'd have been hunting, so therefore their heartbeat and everything would have been up elevated for a short period of time. But once the quarry was got, then they were able to relax. So stress for humans was meant, and we were designed to take stress for short periods of time and then relax afterwards. But the modern society and modern business doesn't allow that. We are stressed continuously. So it is, how do we deal with that stress in the long term? And that's where behaviour comes into, how you handle your behaviours, that comes into the solution of all of this here.
Billy, in preparation for this morning's interview, I looked at some of the workshops which you have delivered recently, and one of them that stood out to me was you can learn to be charismatic. How can we learn to become charismatic, Billy?
Well, it's three types of confidence. The first one is personal confidence, how you feel about yourself. And that is something none of us are born with. It's something we build, and it's something we develop as we go through life. And if you look at charismatic people, the vast majority of them appear, now you notice I say appear, doesn't mean they actually have, but they appear to have good personal confidence. The second one is the vast majority of people with charisma have great social confidence. In other words, they're brilliant at interacting with people. Their social skills are excellent. Now, it's both on a personal level, so even then there's levels of it. They're good on a personal level, and then they're good in front of small groups of people, and they're good with large groups of people. And I call that social confidence. And then the third element is physical confidence. And physical confidence is your physical presence. It is how you look, and it is your body language. Now, if you take somebody like Bill Clinton has all three of those. He has social confidence, he has physical confidence, and he has personal confidence. So all three he has. Now, when Hillary was running her election campaign, Bill Clinton had just gone through a heart operation. And everybody said when he was on stage with Hillary giving his speeches, he had lost his charisma. And the reason was he had lost part of his physical confidence. So one of those confidences had gone down. So therefore, he had lost charisma.
And Billy, finally, as we face into the unpredictable commercial environment which Brexit may create, in terms of your role as an image consultant, what advice would you like to share with us this morning?
Oh, that's a massive question. Because if you think about it, it's all about uncertainty. And it is dealing with that uncertainty. So what I'd be looking at there in terms of business, I'd be saying to the people around me, right, what we have to do is find the people who think strategically. Now, I mean, I used to teach strategy, and I can teach strategy to the cows come home, but I cannot make you a strategic thinker. And every piece of research out there says only 2% of the world's population can actually think strategically. So what we need to do in businesses is to find those strategic thinkers and get those people to think their way through this process, because they are the ones who will see the path through this. I mean, the rest of us, people like myself, I'm not seeing the path through this here, but I know if I find the right person, the strategic person within an organisation, we have a chance.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Billy Dixon, professional speaker and image consultant. And I would like to thank Billy for joining us on this morning's show. And if you see any business people of Wexford ditching their suits in the coming weeks, you'll certainly know who's responsible.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.